What is seemingly one of the easiest ways to control a population? Well, what it appears to be is by indoctrinating children. It's by teaching them your ideas that allow you to achieve your objective, by tricking them, who these kids don't know any better, into doing your bidding. In this video, you will see just how maniacal people can be in subverting children into the indoctrination. Viewer discretion is advised.
We'll convert your children. Happens bit by bit, quietly and subtly, and you will barely notice it. We're coming for them. We're coming for your children.
2 moments later.
An event at Hazard High School causing outrage and now an investigation.
The school is celebrating homecoming week. Yesterday was costume day featuring a man pageant. Multiple pictures were posted and taken down from the school's athletics page. They appear to show students giving lap dances to faculty and staff. Some pictures show female students dressed in Hooters costumes. Other pictures show students and staff paddling each other. One person featured in the pictures is Principal Donald Happy Mobilini, who is also the mayor of Hazard. Some parents say they are outraged. Others say they don't think any lines were crossed.
Oh yeah, they're totally not coming after the kids, boys. That was a joke. That was the San Francisco's Gay Men Choir. That was a joke. No. By the way, don't mind this over here where you've got a high school where they've taken these boys, dressed them up in lingerie, and then have them give lap dances to the school staff. No shit. Holy damn. This is why they want to keep parents the fuck away from the schools. This is why the Joe Biden administration has weaponized the Department of Justice and the FBI is asshole and the Department of Ed, and they're calling parents out there who got a problem with any of this. You're racist and you're terrorists.
Our top story, Attorney General Merrick Garland back in the hot seat today, testifying on Capitol Hill before the Senate Judiciary Committee on a series of controversies, most notably a school board memo that compares parents to terrorists.
Well, I have in my hand right here that I'll submit to the record a letter from one of your U.S. attorneys to all of the county attorneys, to the Attorney General, to all sheriffs, to the School Board Association of his state, in which he talks about federal investigation and prosecution. It's not about meetings, it's not about coordination, it's about federal investigation and prosecution. Did you direct your U.S. attorneys to issue such a letter?
I did not. I have not seen that letter.
It's got 3 pages. It's got 3 pages of spreadsheet about all the federal crimes that a parent could be charged with.
This is insane. Yeah, this is gross. Why is this happening? Why is this being done at our public schools? Why are we allowing this to happen?
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize the people dancing were minors.
Yes.
I didn't know. I'm serious.
Yeah.
When people were sharing the story, I was like, oh, that's horrible and disgusting. I didn't realize that it wasn't like they brought people in to do something inappropriate in a high school. They actually had minors doing this. That's like
and stuff. Yeah.
That should be hard time. Yep. Those are minors you're having give lap dances.
At this point, I don't even know what to say any longer. It's just getting further and further and further and further and further, deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into just dark total depravity, where every single week we're seeing some kind of scandal being covered up in a high school, or children being targeted, or a 9th grade gets sodomized, gets raped, and it gets covered up, and the rapist gets sent to another school, and we're continuing to see this happen over and over, and it's a symptom of the total depravity in this generation, where now today this is like truly sickening. These people are pedophiles. There's no explanation for what's happening in Kentucky.
Attorney General Garland, on October 4th, you issued an unprecedented memo that involves the Department of Justice and the FBI and local school districts, local school boards. You've testified on this letter from the National School Board Association that we now know the White House was involved in writing. They've retracted the letter. They've apologized for the letter. They say they regret the letter, but you won't retract the memo, and said earlier that you have no regrets. And you've defended yourself repeatedly today before this committee by saying, well, you're focused on violence. But now, of course, we've seen the memo from your own Justice Department advising state and local and other prosecutors about all of the different federal causes of action that they can bring against parents that are not about violence, they're about harassment and intimidation. I'm looking here at this memo. It identifies no fewer than 13 possible federal crimes involving harassment and intimidation.
You're domestic terror. You got a problem with us teaching your children to cut their dicks off and to give lap dances to school staff? Yes. Yeah, I got a lot of problems with. You're sitting there going, why the fuck would they do this? There's an auditorium over here. This is, I don't know, there's a couple hundred kids in here. Certainly somebody's got a cell phone and they're recording this and they're going to get this out. No. They took pictures of this and they put it on their Facebook. They don't give a fuck. They doing this shit wide out in the open.
This is a real issue going on in this country that a lot of people are passionate about. So passionate, in fact, that when it comes to the Virginia's governor's race, Glenn Youngkin, the Republican challenger, he has essentially centered his campaign on what's happening in these schools, in education, which, in my opinion, has allowed him to close the gap when it comes to the polls against Mr. Terry McAuliffe, the Democrat challenger. And what's shocking here is the fact that the Democrats believe that while Glenn Youngkin is focusing on real issues, they think it's a good idea to roll out Obama and tell parents that their concerns regarding what's going on in school is just a trumped up culture war and phony. While at the same time, Terry McAuliffe, the Democrat candidate, is dancing and still calling parents racist who go after critical race theory.
I am sick of them talking about these issues of critical race theory. We do not teach critical race theory here in Virginia. It has never been taught. It is a racist dog whistle. It is pitting parents against parents, parents against teachers, and they're using our children as political pawns, and it has got to stop.
So while McAuliffe denies that CRT is being taught in schools, take a look at these headlines. Virginia's Department of Education promoting a book that says, quote, teachers must embrace theories such as critical race theory. A slide presentation from Fairfax County Public Schools reportedly instructed social studies teachers that, quote, critical race theory is a frame for their work. And Christopher Rufo, who has been leading the way on this issue, says Terry McAuliffe just not telling the truth.
McAuliffe's idea that it's not taught in Virginia schools is verifiably false. We have records, including actual contract receipts from Loudoun County, Virginia. They actually are paying $625 an hour for consulting that specifically references critical race theory by name.
Do you think a parent who makes a phone call to a school board member that she has elected, that school board member deems annoying, should be prosecuted? General Garland?
No, I don't. And the Supreme Court has made quite clear that the word intimidation with respect to the constitutional protection is one that directs a threat to a person with the intent of placing the victim in fear of bodily harm or death. Prosecutors who investigate these cases know the Supreme Court's. This is a very famous leading case.
Prosecutors do, but parents don't, General Garland. Do you think that a parent who looks at the 13 different federal crimes that your Justice Department has identified they might be subject to and prosecuted for, like making annoying phone calls, do you think that they're going to feel that they're welcome to speak up at a school board meeting? How about this one? They could be prosecuted for using the internet, I guess that would be Facebook, in a way that might cause emotional distress to a victim. Is that a crime of violence?
Senator, I haven't seen the memo that you're
Why
talking
haven't
about,
you?
and I don't, even from the description, it doesn't sound like it was addressed to parents. But if you
No, it wasn't addressed to parents. It was addressed to prosecutors. That's the problem. Why haven't you seen the memo?
I don't know why I haven't. I don't look at every. I do not get every memo that every U.S. attorney sends out.
This is why it's so important to get involved in local politics. This is why it's important to get involved in the schools. The schools need to be held accountable for the things that are taking place in these institutions of learning, right? Anything, nothing but learning. It's a cultural revolution within the they're successfully indoctrinating kids for this psycho garbage that they're pushing out on them.
It does not shock me any longer because we have crazy psychopaths, pedophiles in the school system. We have people in the education system, teachers, principals, people on school boards, working in the school district that now believe, and you see this even on TikTok, they don't care that you take issue with indoctrinating your own kids. The arrogance of these people, you see this on TikTok, you see them when they post their social media videos. There's Antifa teachers that are posting Antifa flags in their classrooms and they don't give a damn and they don't tell anybody. They don't want the parents to know because the parents are going to take issue with that. And now parents that are opposing critical race theory in Loudoun County that are pissed off that little girls are getting raped in multiple high schools are now getting called domestic terrorists because they're getting mad, okay? These people in their arrogance and their high and mighty mentality, they believe that they are better than you at raising your own children. Mom, the baby that came out of your womb, the state thinks they're better than you at raising your own child. Dad, the baby that came from your loins, your blood, your flesh, the state believes that they're better at taking care of your baby than you. Okay? And we're seeing this across the board with the indoctrination, with the LGBTQ agenda, the critical race theory agenda. You're seeing this all the time.
For fuck's sake, they're singing. And they're putting these songs out on their web pages and their social media platforms where they're telling you they're coming after the fucking kids. They ain't even hiding this anymore at this point, friends. And again, this is why the Joe Biden administration wants parents to go out there and stay the fuck away from the schools. Because they got your kids now. All of the people involved in this fucking school during this assembly, if you will, didn't have any problem. Nobody said, this is a bad idea. Nobody said that. What the fuck is happening behind closed doors if you're doing this out in the open? Holy shit. And again, you know who's going to be at the school board meeting in Kentucky for this school district over here? The FBI. And they won't be investigating the adults in this situation. They're going to be investigating parents who have a problem with this. Well, you got a problem with your women, children over here being raped in the bathrooms? Well, that's because you're a transphobe, racist, terrorist, white supremacist, Trump supporter. Oh, what? No. These schools are completely unhinged.
More and more I'm believing that this is part of the agenda. To subvert the kids, to teach them what is wrong instead of right. And they're doing it out in the open too. They're being blatant and brazen and just doing it out in the open, posting stuff to social media. The Bible talks about evil for good and good for evil. And what now is happening is that people are taking what is evil and promoting it as good. And this is part of the brainwashing that is occurring in our schools. And now that the Department of Justice is being weaponized, it's a tool that is silencing those who oppose what is going on with their children. It's wrong and it needs to be stopped.
And
Chief
it's just
Diversity
as oppressive.
Officer.
It's just as oppressive as the religious authorities used to be.
I would say less.
It's worse.
Or I would say more.
Yeah, it's
Sorry,
way
I would
worse.
say way worse.
You know, like religion, deeply influential in a lot of ways. But when I was growing up, nowhere near the power of massive corporations.
No, but the
church,
left told us that they had that kind of power. The left told us that this moral authority was bad and that we needed to fight against it.
and it was really just people voting together.
Well,
yes,
you know why?
that's
Because
correct. And it was communities. It was communities helping each other.
evil always calls for tolerance, and then when it's ascendant, it calls for compliance. And that's exactly what we're seeing.
Yep. I looked up Chief Diversity Officer.
Yeah.
That's a new thing.
It sure is.
And Wikipedia's first entry goes back to 2008. And if you look up CEO, it goes back to 2002, obviously, because CEO has been around for a long time. Diversity Officer is basically Communist Party member.
Right.
So the Chinese Communist Party has they have their party member in all these businesses that assert authority and control over how you fall in line. Now what they're starting to do is they're starting to make chief diversity officers, and it is the most insane thing you can ever imagine.
It's a good point, man.
It's like a tumor, because think about it. What does a chief executive officer do? I mean, they run the show. They make executive decisions on everything. Now, the chief operating officer executes on those things, is in charge of the managing the day-to-day everything, runs the operations. Then you have chief marketing officer, head of marketing, chief technology officer. Then you have like content officers. You have high-ranking positions based around specific tasks for companies. What would So content, chief content officer, we know what that does. They manage and oversee content. What is content? Well, it's the thing you're making and selling. Chief marketing officer, they're selling the product to everybody. Chief operating officer is running the company. They're doing things that make money and that matter. Chief diversity officer,
The chief
proselytizing
diversity,
ideology,
and the
ensuring
chief
you
diversity,
comply.
and the chief diversity officer has to make sure that racism remains front and foremost
right.
in the company.
Exactly.
You have to make
Yep.
sure that there's constantly racism problems in the company. Otherwise, you have no
That's the
job.
point. Yeah.
There's no
Yep.
point
Amen.
of the chief diversity officer other than maintaining their position.
Yes,
within the
it's
company.
exactly. This is why
and making human resources a bigger department.
Yeah, well, this is why Thomas Sowell said, never put activists in charge of solving a problem.
Of course.
The activist
Because
has
they
nothing to
just-
do with the problem
they
gets
just
solved.
wanna perpetuate it.
They're
Yeah,
going to find things that seem problematic when they aren't, because that's their bread and butter.
This is a memorandum that collects 13 different federal crimes parents could be charged with. It has United States Department of Justice on the top of it, and you're telling me you haven't seen it?
Who's the memo from, Senator?
The United States Department of Justice, United States Attorney for the District of Montana.
I have not seen a memo from the District of Montana.
Not high enough priority for you?
That's not the question. I don't.
It is the question. Answer my question. Is it not a high enough priority for you when you're threatening parents with 13 different federal crimes? These aren't crimes of violence. You've testified today you're focused on violence. That's not what your U.S. attorneys, they work for you. That's not what they're saying. You haven't seen it because it's not a high enough priority, or what?
Question of priority. No one has sent me that memo, so I haven't seen it.
What do you mean no one has sent you the memo? You run the United States Department of Justice, do you not?
There are 115,000 employees of the Department of Justice.
Indeed, and you are in charge of every one of them. And
And
this
I do
was a
not-
sufficiently important case that you issued a memo. You, over your signature, issued a memo involving the FBI and the Department of Justice in local school boards, local school districts. Your U.S. attorneys are now threatening prosecution with 13 different crimes, but it's not a high enough priority for you. It got lost in the mix.
From the Lexington Herald leaders, Kentucky school man pageant with lap dances and teens in Hooters shirts under investigation. Good. Everyone involved in this should be fired. Absolutely fired. Here's some more images. Students dressed in Hooters costumes and bikinis also took turns paddling each other. Here we go. Here are the boys. Absolutely gross. I can't even continue to express how disgusting this is, what's taking place in our schools and what's being allowed to happen in places like Kentucky. And if this is happening in Kentucky, you better believe this stuff is happening in other places around the country.
Everybody who was been to Hazard knows all of the teachers and what happens during homecoming week.
These are the people that are teaching your children in the public school system, and they don't care. They publicly come out and put out these videos that this is how they teach your children with these cute little songs, but at the same time, it's total confusion. And I come out and say, if somebody is mentally ill, then tell them that they're mentally ill, because that is who these people are and that is what they're doing. They're trying to normalize mental illness to little children. I'm not shocked anymore. There's an investigation underway after a Kentucky high school hosts a drag pageant featuring male teens in lingerie giving lap dances to staff, including the principal, which is the mayor. Did you guys hear what I just said? There's an investigation underway after a Kentucky, not California, not New York, Kentucky, bruh. People might say, no way. There's no way that's real. Oh, well, it's on local news stations, and you're going to see even the news anchor's face is just like totally shocked that they're actually reporting this.
Talked to several upset parents today about inappropriate actions at an assembly at Hazard High School. Pictures were even posted earlier this week on the Hazard High School Athletics Facebook page.
The costume contest was part of their homecoming week. Several students dressed like Hooters restaurant employees and carried mugs that looked like they had beer in them. Other students were paddled as part of the event.
That's a boy, by the way. That's not a girl. This is a teenage boy in a wig twerking for school staff. So just want to clarify that.
And carried mugs that looked like they had beer in them. Other students were paddled as part of the event. Parents we've heard from were most upset about pictures showing teenage boys dressed in lingerie dancing on and near school leaders. The superintendent told us the incident is being investigated and appropriate action will be taken. We're going to have much more on this story later today on WKYT.
But her face
Talk
is just
to
like shocked. She can't
several
believe that she's actually like covering stuff like this.
How many times have I done a video about a non-white parent that is opposed to critical race theory? But for whatever reason, Democrats think that it's a smart idea. It's a smart idea to go out here and to say people who are opposed to it are racist when you have minorities that are opposed to it. But regardless, as you can see there, guys, again, that's the Democrats telling you once again, your concerns are fake. What you are concerned about does not matter, right? They've been trying to tell parents this over and over and over again. They don't care about you, okay? They don't think that you are smart enough or capable enough as a parent to have control over your child's education. That's what they're telling you. That's what they're telling you, just flat out telling you this, okay? And for the life of me, I don't understand, like, even if you are a parent and you agree with the mandates, if you don't really care about critical race theory being taught in schools, you know, if you're on board with all the woke stuff, why in the world would you support somebody or a party that tells you that your opinion does not matter? Because just because you agree with what they're doing today doesn't mean that you're going to agree with what they do tomorrow.
The fact is that they are teaching critical race theory. He doesn't want to acknowledge it, but telling people it's just not happening, you know, makes them feel pretty insulted. Fairfax County paid Ibrahim X. Kendi, who is a racist himself, $20,000 to give a speech for an hour to school administrators and to teachers last summer. They backed that up when it came to light in public documents that they had paid him that much money, saying it was essential to how they learn to teach children. It's not just the issue of critical race theory either. It's about pornographic books being in these libraries for young children, parents reading them out loud and embarrassing school boards over it. And they wince. Well, what do you think the parents are doing? Terry McAuliffe also keeps smearing parents by saying this is a racist dog whistle to bring up critical race theory. There are parents in Loudoun County and Fairfax County from all different backgrounds, including a woman who grew up in Mao's China, who have come up to these meetings to say, we don't want this in our schools. It is not just white parents who are living in suburbia going to these school board meetings. And finally, I would say, it is not a good look for the Loudoun County School Board to be calling the Sheriff's Department and acting like these people are domestic terrorists, asking for all of these insane security measures simply to keep them out from speaking to them when they are taxpayer funded and have the right to be there. And so, you know, Terry McAuliffe thinks that insulting them is the way out of this when he should really be listening to them and their concerns.
I'll send again. I've never seen that memo.
That's what concerns me, General Garland.
Well, it wasn't sent to me. I hope you will assure your constituents that what we are concerned about here is violence and threats of violence.
That only leads me to conclude, General Garland, all I can conclude from this is either that you're not in control of your own department, or that, more likely, what I think to be the case, is that you knew full well that this is exactly the kind of thing that would happen. When you issued your memo, when you involved the Department of Justice and all of its resources, and the FBI and all of its resources, and local school boards and local school districts, you knew that federal prosecutors would start collecting crimes that they could use against parents. You knew they would advise state and local officials that these are all of the ways parents might be prosecuted. You knew that that was the likely outcome, and that's exactly what's happened.
One of the Hazard High School staff members who was photographed getting a lap dance by a scantily clad male student was the principal, Donald Happy Mobilini, who is also the mayor of the Perry County City. You could do both? You could be the mayor and the principal of the school? And the principal is supposed to manage this entire school, manage all of the students, all of the staff, all of the parents. I think the principals are running the finances for the fucking school. You could do all of that and be the mayor. Are there 12 fucking people in this city? Maybe that's why you thought you can get away with this, but the school looks packed over here.
At this point, it doesn't shock me. It still angers me. It still very, very, very well concerns me and bothers me that this is taking place in somewhere like Kentucky, where you have male teenage boys dressing in drag with wigs on that are twerking for the principal and school staff, and little girls walking around like whores. Like, are we that stupid as a society where we're just going to sit here and say, oh, no, that's not, it's just all fun and games. It's just for a laugh. And people might say, oh, this is a conspiracy theory. You're sounding like Alex Jones. The school themselves posted the photos. This is how this came out. And parents are pissed. They're livid. Wouldn't you be? You see what I'm saying? I'm talking about this like every day now, where the school system, the state, is now targeting the children and taking it this far. It's like they're not even trying to hide it anymore. Why would they need to hide it? Because they could just turn around and accuse you of being a domestic terrorist.
Right? You should never, right, consider voting for somebody that is telling you that your voice and your opinion does not matter when it comes to what your child is taught in school. It blows my mind that the Democrats think that this is a winning message.
And we're talking about parents like Scott Smith, who's behind me over my shoulder. This is a father from Loudoun County, Virginia. Here he is at a school board meeting. He was forcibly restrained. He was assaulted. He was arrested. Why? Because he went to an elected school board meeting. He's a voter, by the way. He went to an elected school board meeting to raise the fact that his daughter was assaulted, sexually assaulted, in a girl's restroom by a boy. This is what happened to him. Now, you testified last week before the House that you didn't know anything about this case. I find that extraordinary because the letter that you put so much weight on, the letter that's now been retracted, it cites this case. It cites Mr. Scott's case directly. There's a news article cited in the letter. It's discussed in the letter, but you testified you just couldn't remember it. Maybe this will refresh your memory. Do you think people like Scott Smith, do you think parents who show up to complain about their children being assaulted ought to be treated like this man right here?
Parents who show up to complain about school boards are protected by the First Amendment.
Do you think that they ought to be prosecuted in the different ways that your U.S. attorneys are identifying?
If what they're doing is complaining about what the school board is doing, policies, curriculum, anything else that they want to, as long as they're not committing threats of violence, then they should not be prosecuted.
Wait, on Tuesday, the school held a man pageant. See, lefties, you should be upset about this. Looks like this should be right up your alley over here. Oh, probably not. And Costume Day, according to their Facebook page. They put all of these on Facebook. Photos of male students giving staff lap dances during the pageant were posted on Facebook by the school's athletics department, but were removed as it began to go viral. Don't worry about it. No parents allowed, though. No parents allowed. It's just for the kids. We bring in punch pie and hormone blockers to the little kindergartners. They're going to have them crawl over these transgender drag queen story hour readers. It's a public service. What the fuck? Again, they put this on the Facebook page. None of them thought that this was a bad idea. God knows what's happening at this school when you have adults with such a lack of self-awareness. There were also female students in Hooters outfits. Holy shit. Come on, that's got to piss off the feminist lefties, right? No? It's fine. They're stunning and brave.
Yeah, there are that's a sex offense. The audacity of these people. First, they shut the schools down for over a year and whine and complain. Anyone tells them that they have to go back into the classroom and do their job. And then on top of that, they happen to be pushing all this CRT stuff, this sort of Keynesian perverse sexual education curriculum with all of these gross modern ideas in it. And then, before this story breaks, we're seeing think pieces about how parents don't really have rights. We need to allow the teachers to do their job.
We have the Attorney General saying that as well. The Attorney General today affirmed that he was going to continue the investigation into angry parents.
That's what we need to investigate.
Even though the National School Boards Association has basically rescinded their original letter from September.
Is that the adults in the room should have been like, hey, this is a bad look. We shouldn't do this. These are minors. Okay, whether it's a joke or not. That's just my opinion. Is there anybody that was in high school that's like, yeah, I'm going to give my principal a lap dance? I mean, you might have a crush on a teacher or something like that, but as an adult, you should be like, this is a bad look. I guarantee you, anybody watching this that's over 18 would take issue being filmed of a high school student giving you a lap dance at work. You wouldn't want that on the internet. I'm just saying. Why? Because people are going to accuse you of being a pedophile, bro, whether it's a joke or not.
And they can't be.
Let me ask you about this. Several of my Democrat colleagues have just today in this hearing, multiple times have compared parents who show up at school board meetings, like Mr. Smith here, have compared them to criminal rioters. You think that's right? You think that a parent who shows up at a school board meeting, who has a complaint, who wants to voice that complaint, and maybe she doesn't use exactly the right grammar, you think they're akin to criminal rioters? Do you agree with that?
I do not, and I do not remember any senator here making that comparison.
Oh, really? These people are just like the folks who came here on January 6th and in the riot at the Capitol?
I don't think they were referring to the picture that you're showing there.
Well, I certainly would hope not, but they were referring to parents who go to school board meetings. Mr. Smith is a parent who went to a school board meeting. I'll leave it at this, General Garland. You have weaponized the FBI and the Department of Justice. Your U.S. attorneys are now collecting and cataloging all the ways that they might prosecute parents like Mr. Smith because they want to be involved in their children's education and they want to have a say in their elected officials. It's wrong. It is unprecedented, to my knowledge, in the history of this country, and I call on you to resign. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If they got such a lack of understanding of how it comes to educating kids and what's appropriate, and they're doing this right here, this is the tip of the iceberg. All of these motherfuckers are suspect. Every single adult in this gymnasium right now who didn't have a problem with this is fucking suspect. And again, this is why they're calling you guys terrorists when you show up. Parents being upset about this are now terrorists. They're trying to kick the Overton window over while they go for your kids. Hide your kids, hide your wife, lefties are coming.
We'll convert your children.